My name is Christine Damko, and I'm with the City of Temecula Office of Economic Development, and welcome to our community presentation with our retail consultant, Buxton. Before I call them up, I just wanted to set the stage of why the city needed this resource and this consultant. We have the regional mall, we have the promenade mall, we have a strong retail core. Our retail sales are number 75 out of over 520 jurisdictions in the state of California. We have a very strong retail core. So what's next? You know, Temecula was 25 years old, and we have this strong retail core. Do we just foster our existing businesses and retailers, or do we go out there and we continue to reinvent and bring in new retailers? Well, we believe we are the retail destination for Southwest Riverside County, and we wanted to grow and diversify our retail. So that kind of led us to the next path of, yes, we want to grow our retail, so how do we do it? How do we attract those retailers? And so we found that our marketing was very broad. So, for example, you know, we're centrally located and we have millions, you know, we're surrounded by millions of people. And so when we would talk to retailers, they would kind of roll their eyes at us and say, really, you know, centrally located is good if you're trying to attract a manufacturer. But for a retailer, we know better. We know that millions of people are not going to go visit a Bed Bath & Beyond, right? And so we knew that we needed to change our information. And then lastly, we were spending a lot of time talking to retailers that quite frankly wouldn't return our calls or emails. And so we were spending a lot of time, and we didn't want to spin our wheels talking to a retailer that didn't want to talk to us at this time. So that really led us to, we actually called Buxton. We have heard of Buxton, and we also talked to numerous other of their competitors, other retail consultants. And we really wanted to work with a company that could honestly give us real demographic information that we can sit down with a retailer and they're not going to have their eyes rolled, right? I'm not going to see eyes rolled. And we wanted to know what retailers matched our current demographics, and you'll learn that today. We also gave Buxton our list of retailers that citizens wanted to see in our city and had them compare our demographics against our wish list. Some made the list and some didn't at this time. So I hope you enjoy the presentation, and if you didn't get a copy of the PowerPoint, they are in back. And at this time, I would like to call up Cheyenne Robinson and Rob Miller with Buxton.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here in your community and joining us this lovely day. I'm really glad to be here and walk you through an executive summary of our findings for Temecula. Now, I'm Cheyenne Robinson, and the City of Temecula's day-to-day contact and account executive with Buxton. I also have here with me Rob Miller, who is our Director of Sales. And we're really excited to walk you through, like I said, an executive summary of our findings, but most importantly, understanding who your best potential consumers are for Temecula and how you now have the answers to really take a data-driven approach to make business strategic decisions for the community. First, really just want to give you a sense of what we'll be reviewing today. Just want to give you a sense of our overall objective and why the City of Temecula has partnered with us at Buxton. And then how we utilize our retail expertise and understanding your retail thumbprint. So what makes Temecula unique? Who are your consumers? What is the profile that defines them and how they live their life and spend their money? As well as your drive time trade area and how we leverage these two components in our database of over 5,000 retailers and find those that have locations in the marketplace that look most like your community. And we've been actively working and implementing our solution with the economic development team in Temecula and utilizing our online analytics platform called Scout. And in Scout, our platform has all of our marketing information available and a number of unlimited reports and insights to not only help in growing your retail sector, but also helping those local businesses as well. So Temecula has partnered with us at Buxton to really take a deep dive at understanding the current economic conditions that are present here by utilizing our solution of knowing all the retailers in the marketplace who prefer those same type of customers and conditions that are here today. And we've developed a full marketing strategy that we're actively utilizing with your economic development team to really grow your retail and help retain your local businesses. First, I'm going to let Rob walk you through some background information about who we are as a company.
Great. Thank you very much, Cheyenne. So before we really dive into sharing some of our findings about Temecula and what the population looks like and what the market looks like from a consumer standpoint, I want to give you guys a little bit of insight into how at Buxton we're uniquely positioned to be able to know this information, to be able to share this directly with communities, local business owners, developers, and brokers. So that really starts with who we are as a company and where we came from. Here at Buxton, we've been around for about 20 years now. We really got our start working directly with retailers. So helping retailers to understand, how do we grow our brand? How do we decide what is a good location and an underperforming location? How do we make those decisions in advance of coming in and making that investment on an underperforming location? That really started 20 years ago with the understanding and kind of a new, different direction from a retail development standpoint. And that was not focusing so much on purely location. We came to the realization that for a retailer, customers needed to be the focus. So instead of it being location, 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 we pioneered the concept that it's really customer, customer, customer that a retailer should try to understand to know, is this a good location? Is this a good market for me to open an Applebee's this year? Is it going to be successful? Because at the end of the day, you could have the best piece of real estate in the nation, but if the right type of consumers aren't located around that site for your brand, it's not going to be nearly as successful. So we took this new approach to forming ourselves as really a customer-focused company. So we help our clients to understand who their best customers are, where more that look exactly like those best customers are located, and then what the value that customer brings to their brand. So a great example of one of our partnerships, one of our longtime partners, is with Trader Joe's. I'm sure living out in California, you guys are very familiar with Trader Joe's. Back when we started working with Trader Joe's, they came to the realization that they had really oversaturated the California market. They needed to start to think strategically, how do we grow our brand to all four corners of the United States? They knew what their customers looked like in Temecula, San Francisco, San Diego, and Los Angeles, but they really didn't know, what is that consumer going to look like in Boston? What does that customer look like in the Washington, D.C. Metroplex? So we helped Trader Joe's to understand where those consumers were located across the country and how they can open new locations that are going to be successful. So over the last 20 years, we've worked with about 3,000 retailers, all the way from Fortune 500 companies, FedEx, all the way down to emerging concepts. I'm not sure if they've made it out here, but Pi 5 is one of our most recent clients. We started working with them when they had one location, and now they're close up to 100 different locations across the United States. To dive a little bit deeper into our expertise within retail, This is a snapshot of a 12-month period of performance on the retail side of our business, working with retailers. We like to share this to really give people an understanding of how competitive retail is. So during this 12-month period of performance, we evaluated 80,000 sites for our retail partners. Of those 80,000 sites, 7,500 new locations were opened. So for every single one of those sites, those brick and mortars that a retail opened, they evaluated close to 15 other sites. So retail is very competitive, whether it's from an attraction standpoint, whether it's from competing with some of those other businesses in your market. It's essential to have the right type of information, to understand who your customers are, to understand how they live their lives, how they spend their money. Where is somebody going to go out to eat on a Friday night? Where do they prefer to shop for their milk and eggs? These are the type of answers that we're able to pull out of consumer analytics. And that really falls into that who-where value, like I mentioned before. So for a retailer, it's understanding who your best customers are, where more that look exactly like them are located, or where they're located, and then what value do they bring to your store? What value do they bring to your brand? For Temecula, we're helping them to understand who their citizens are as consumers, where they're located, and then what value do they bring to a retailer. Trying to decide what is the right mix of retail for Temecula and what are those brands they should be going out and speaking with, making sure they're using their time effectively and efficiently. So about 10 years ago, kind of getting a little bit closer to why we're out here today, about 10 years ago, we realized a lot of this information we were sharing directly with retailers would be beneficial for communities to have access to as well. So over the last 10 plus years, we've worked with about 700 communities across the nation, all the way from major metros, downtown Dallas in Texas, Georgetown in DC, downtown Sacramento, all the way down to communities with less than 5,000 population. A great example of one of our longtime clients close into you guys and actually very similar makeup is Hesperia, California. So we've been working with them for 7+ years now. We've helped them to recruit over 27 different retailers, create over 1,200 new jobs in their community, and brought in an annual of over $2 million in tax revenue from the retailers we put them in touch with. And that's really by helping them to understand who lives and who works in their market and how they behave as consumers. Because of our work on the retail and the public side of our business, here at Buxton, we've been recognized. Fast Company voted us #2 on the Fast 50 list. We were recognized by the Harvard Business Review for our work with local municipalities. I know it's not up here, but just earlier this year, our CEO was named to the list of people shaping retail's future by the National Retail Federation. Not necessarily trying to boast or brag to you guys, but just give you an understanding of our position in retail. We are retail experts, and I think you guys are going to find a lot of the insights that Cheyenne's going to go through to be very, very valuable for making business decisions. So getting a little bit closer into what that actually looks like. So when working with the city of Temecula, we're really looking to come up with what is that list of retailers that are the best fit, that is going to generate the right mix of retail, right, to help Temecula get to that next level. So to really do that, we have a proprietary methodology, and that's really about understanding first and foremost that consumer profile. So what I've been talking about, who your citizens are as consumers, what your daytime population is, how does that differ from your workforce population, your residential population, and understanding what makes those individuals unique as consumers. Also, it's important from a retail standpoint to understand where those individuals are located within your market, right? Understanding how far somebody's willing to drive to go get a sandwich at lunchtime, and how far is somebody willing to go drive and get something at a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something of that nature. And then finally looking at what are those unique retail market conditions that are prevalent in your market. What is it like from a competition standpoint? What are the co-tenancies and adjacencies on a site that a retailer may be looking at? What are the traffic patterns, ingress, egress routes? So all of those what else factors, we're going to come in and factor into our equation to ultimately come up with what I like to call a thumbprint for the city of Temecula. This is what makes Temecula unique from a retail standpoint, and what we're really trying to do is find out, based on that thumbprint, who are those best retailers for Temecula. Now, I've shared a lot of information kind of building up why we're positioned to be able to provide insights into your consumer base. And I know Cheyenne would really like to kind of actually dive in and share some of that information with you.
So first, we really want to know where the sustainable consumers are for your market. And we're looking at how far in minutes the consumers will drive to consume goods and services in Temecula. And the reason we're looking at your drive time trade area in minutes is really because as consumers, we think in convenience. So how quickly is it to grab milk and eggs at the grocery store? How fast can I fill up my gas tank at the gas station? I know it takes me 25 minutes to get to work each day, but if you were to ask me how many miles, I really don't know. So this is how a retailer is looking at your market, and we're first looking really at where are those most valuable consumers. So of course there are going to be customers who will drive a further distance to shop at your store, but those are less frequent and not as valuable. So looking at those day in, day out sustainable consumers. If I was to just look at city boundaries for Temecula, we know that you're around a population of 109,000. But when we get beyond those city boundaries and look at, for example, all of the potential customers for a retailer in 15 minutes surrounding the mall, I know that there are over 270 potential customers in this drive time trade area of 15 minutes that we're seeing here. Well, we'll take a look at a couple of other sites in the community. If we're looking at the Old Town market, within 20 minutes, we're seeing a drive time trade area here on the map. There are over 380,000 potential customers to a retailer. And lastly, at Temecula Parkway, in a 20-minute trade area, over 250,000 potential consumers within the drive time that we're seeing here. Just want to give you a sense within how these trade areas differ. We're seeing here that there are some overlaps, there's some differences within the different sites. Now, the population is not accumulative. They're between 250,000 to 380,000 in population within each of the trade areas that we're seeing here. So now that we know where that sustainable consumer base is for Temecula, we then want to take a deep dive and define who your consumers are, who those best potential consumers are for your market, how they live their lives, how they spend their money. First, just to give you a sense of who your residents are and what we know about your community, about 45% of Temecula residents are considered middle-aged, ethnically mixed, suburban families and couples earning upscale incomes. They're living comfortable lifestyles, saving for their children's college, enjoying family-centric activities, typically PTA parents. Now, 20% of your residents, they're prosperous, established couples in their peak, earning years living in suburban homes, enjoying upscale housing, they're savvy investors. They're also typically country club members as well. Then there's 15% of your residents, they're mid-scale, middle-aged established couples living in suburban and fringed homes. They're sensible, multicultural, they have comfortable spending and enjoy activity-filled vacations. But how do we know this information? We're able to look at all of the households in the U.S., bucket them into one of 71 different segments that tell us tens and thousands of different lifestyle characteristics and traits about their buying habits. And how do we get down to this information, though? We as consumers, we willingly give away information every day, from our loyalty cards at our favorite department store, to buying and selling a home, to filling out that warranty on your lawnmower. In Buxton, we buy that data so that our clients can make strategic business decisions. And we group that into these 71 different segments. We're seeing here where all the households in the U.S. are grouped within each of those segments. So, for example, the first purple line that you're seeing, that's telling us that that type of consumer is less than 1% of all U.S. households. Now, one of the many variables is income. So you're seeing an income trend line where the more affluent households are on the left, and those more economically challenged households are going to fall towards the further right end of the bar. Now, each of these segments has a creative name and a code associated with it. So one of your top performing types of consumers for your trade area is called D17, cul-de-sac diversity. They make up about 1% of all U.S. households. These are ethnically diverse, middle-aged families settled in new suburban neighborhoods. On the scale of 100 being your average American household, they're 4 times more likely to be email-only receptive, 2 times more likely than your average household to enjoy camping trips, about 84% more likely to exercise at a private club, 66% more likely to belong to a PTA, and about 50% more likely to be the first to try new food. Now, there's over 75 different individual categories. This is just highlights of the lifestyle characteristics that we know about this consumer. We also know one of the top performing types of segments for Temecula is called C14, boomers and boomerangs, about 2% of all U.S. households. We'll look very shortly where each of these fall within your trade area and makeup. Now, these are baby boomer adults and their teenage young adult children sharing suburban homes. Again, with 100 being that average household, over 2.5 times more likely to have a head of household with occupation and management or business and finance. 2 times more likely to donate to private foundation charities and have a presence of a child between the age of 13 and 18. They're also 2 times more likely to find banner and pop-up ads in a tablet browser to be useful. They're 82% more likely to have bought electronics or appliances from a catalog. And additionally, another prevalent type of consumer for your market, we have our everyday moderate, age 28, about 1% of all U.S. households. Now, these are the mid-scale multicultural couples and families living in mid-tier metro suburban settings. They're 2 times more likely to be email and direct mail receptive. They're 2 times more likely to usually be the first among friends to try new clothing styles. They're also 2 times more likely to read the financial pages of the newspaper. 95% more likely than that typical American household to go out of their way to find new stores. And 56% more likely than your average consumer to have some college education. Now, as each of these consumer segments that we reviewed make up around 1 to 2% of all U.S. households, when we look at those varying trade areas that we looked at earlier on the map and see the profile of each site, we found that D17, cul-de-sac diversity, those ethnically diverse middle-aged families, they make up 12 to 15% of households within each of the trade areas that we reviewed earlier. Now, the baby boomers and adult children in their teenage and adult children, and they're sharing those suburban homes, they're around 8 to 10% of households within each of the trade areas. And the other dominant type of consumer, your everyday moderates, mid-scale multicultural couples and families living in those mid-tier metro suburban settings, they're around 9 to 11% of households within each trade area. Now, out of all of the 71 different segments, these 3 make up about 3% of all households in the U.S. When we look at your trade area, they consist of over 30% of households within each site's drive time. And not only do we know this high-level information about these consumers and some of these lifestyle characteristics and traits, we have an interactive guide which is embedded into this deck that you will have access to, where you can see the key traits that describe these consumers, what they typically look like, down to the types of communication that they prefer, and much more detail. So now that we know where that sustainable consumer base is for your market, your drive time trade area, the profile of who your consumers are and how they live their lives, how they spend their money, we then want to determine the value of those consumers to a retailer, along with understanding those what else factors like competition, area draw, and the accessibility of your market. And then we go into our database and find those most actionable group of low-hanging fruit of retailers that have locations in the marketplace that look most like Temecula. So what exactly are we talking about when we say competition? This is looking at in terms of proximity and market share, so really validating with all of the consumers that are here and the existing businesses, your markets can sustain that brand. We're also looking at leakage and surplus. We know that Temecula has a leakage for home furnishings, for example. And then area draw. So think of this as really the increased foot traffic. So things like big box stores such as Home Depot, as well as malls. We know that your mall boasts over 1 million square feet of retail, as well as the colleges, schools in the market, the hotels, and also that you have one of the U.S.'s voted #1 casinos in Temecula. So next, we really want to see the accessibility. So how easy is it to get to your site? What are the road scores, the traffic? There are markets, areas in Temecula that have over 180 volume in average daily traffic. And also the distance to the nearest highway or interstate. You guys have a great location being centrally located with I-15 and 215. So we now know that full profile of your market and these what else factors and market conditions. And we've gone out and we've identified that low-hanging fruit of retailers and a really great mix from full-service restaurants to home furnishings, natural skincare products, to men's and women's clothing and shoes. Now, this is the targeted top 10 list of retailers that we're actively working with your economic development team to pursue into the community. This first starts with providing that direct contact for the real estate decision maker for each of the retailers that we've reviewed. And we've sent an engagement letter on the city's behalf, letting each of the retailers know that they'd be reaching out to them very soon to present a fact-based presentation as to why they should locate in Temecula. And this starts with our retail recruitment packages, which are all online in our analytics platform called Scout. You're looking here at an example of a match report. This is very similar to what our retail clients are using, which is called a site score report. This details the site that's being analyzed at the top, visualizing the trade area that we've analyzed, and then a snapshot of key demographics that any retailer would want to know about your market. But really where we've done the heavy lifting and guesswork for you is that bottom third. We've gone out into the marketplace. We've compared all of those conditions that we've discussed today, the customers, the market competitive presence, demographics, retail draw, as well as accessibility, and found those locations that the retailer already has open that looks most like Temecula, and listed those out. So now the city has been reaching out to those retailers and letting them know, not only is there a great, tremendous opportunity here, but this is why you should locate here, because you've gone out before and been successful, and here's where. So this is an ongoing partnership. We're here to support you with the city with additional training in our analytics platform, Scout, as well as additional research and analyses, because some of the retailers may have immediate interest. There may be those that require a more progressive, proactive approach, and we're going to work with our analytics team and address if additional research is needed. And also support in that dialogue with the retailer. So from conference calls to support at conventions, at ICSC as well. But not only does Scout have all of our retail matching materials and marketing, Scout also has a number of features that really allow not only from business retention and expansion analyses to retail leakage on any market in the U.S. to really uncover. So the retail leakage is really uncovering the unmet demand in a number of different retail categories, as well as identifying if any type of retail may be saturated as well. There's consumer propensity reporting available to you, which this really is detailing the types of preferences for your consumers. What are they most likely to purchase? Is it Pepsi products or is it Coke, for example? There's basic demographic insights available as well, and a number of features to really help if you're a local business take a data-driven approach to optimize your shelves, to if you're a developer and broker and needing to really market available development or a property from high-definition maps of median household income for the Temecula market to seeing the daytime population on the map and those numbers behind it, as well as visualizing those traffic volumes of your site and development and being able to communicate that to a retailer. But what does this really mean to you all? This is assisting in economic development so that you now have a competitive advantage, so that opportunities can be addressed immediately, threats can be responded to, along with our professional support to address those initiatives in economic development. So in summary, we've really gone through and understanding your drive time trade area, the profile of who your consumers are, as well as those retailers that are most actionable for your market today. And along with all the materials needed to actively recruit them and our support for not only growing your retail sector, but helping your local businesses as well. And really what we reviewed is just the tip of the iceberg. There's unlimited amount of data and insights available depending on what your specific needs or questions are for your ongoing initiatives and projects. Really just want to open the floor up, take those questions so that we can see how we can work with the community and economic development to answer your specific questions.
Can you explain what leakage is?
So leakage, what that really is so we're looking at your market and understanding the types of consumers that are here and the businesses. So, and looking at if if a market of retail may be saturated or if there may be a leakage. So that would mean those consumers are leaving that area to go out and consume that type of product.
A real easy way to think about it is just that's a gap in your market. So if we identify that a specialty grocer is experiencing leakage or that category in retail, what that really means is that area is underserved in your market. So we see the potential for, let's use an example, we see the potential of $50 million worth of sales in specialty grocer, but let's say you guys are only meeting $30 million worth of that sales. So we see that as an opportunity in the market to capture some of those additional sales that people are having to leave the community to go out and purchase.
Videotaping.
Hi, I'm with Cal State San Marcos. My name is Suzanne Lingold. I'm interested in a younger demographic and wondering what your study discovered about the young adult market here, aged maybe 20 to 30, 35.
So we do know that there is a subset of a younger type of consumer in your market. Now, some of the types of demographics we reviewed are really from that boomer age to that middle-aged adults. We could absolutely, in follow-up, I could work with Christine and get you specific insights to who that younger consumer is.
Yes, ma'am.
I was sorry. The tourism trade in Temecula is very strong. Do we do any demographic studies on the tourists as to what their spending habits are and how that affects our retail sales?
So right now our focus was on that retail portion, but I'd be happy to work with the city and uncovering additional analyses and working with them on really defining that tourism aspect.
To kind of build on Cheyenne's answer, that's absolutely something that we've done with many communities across the nation, especially, like we're working with Palm Springs, California, obviously, and, Indian Wells, Santa Monica, to help them understand, because tourism is such, an important part of their market, right? So we're helping them to understand not just the residential and workforce population, but also what the impact and who those tourists are, being able to share the same type of information. So that's something that we do have the ability to do, but at this time we don't have that information to share with you guys.
Hi, a couple of your profiles talk about upscale. Can you just define in dollar terms what that means?
So upscale is going to be a more affluent household than your average American household. I'll actually go back to our profile here. So we can see, so on that scale, the left-hand side are going to be more affluent households. So the far left, that A01, that's the most affluent type of household in America. And we're seeing high peaks right there on that scale for Temecula. And seeing that there is a more higher affluency of different types of consumers. I can get you in follow-up what that number is exactly, but it is going to be around over 100,000 or more per year, but I can get down to more specifics if desired.
I just had a question on some of the higher end retailers maybe going in with pachanga like they do in Vegas. I don't know if that's something that's even been thought of or
Going into the casino? Well, it would definitely depend on the available space in the casino and what property may be where that retailer could go. But we could absolutely work and have a better understanding as to that available space in the casino and see what out of our grouping of retailers may be a fit there.
And we can also, look in and see what retailers in the past have located in opportunities like that, and understand how similar are their customers to the customers in your market, to understand, is that something that's going to work.
And to be honest, from the city standpoint, we don't get sales tax from Pachanga or any retailers in Pachanga. So to be honest, we will be fighting for those retailers here within our city limits.
You talked drive time. So is part of this then looking at how the flow of traffic, and does that get into the city as far as planning commissions and structural upgrades and infrastructure upgrades?
So in the drive time trade area, when we're looking at that, there are a number of other factors that really go into determining that. We're looking at, as far as the drive time software goes, things like natural barriers, looking at road classifications, speed limits, time of day, to really uncover what that actual driving time distance is. And then from there, we're going in and really understanding all of the conditions that are within that market.
What would be a good source for the lifetime value of a customer?
So, and understanding, what their, so that would be more in getting into a particular retailer's customer data and seeing what their lifetime is for that product. But we're able to know, retailers, when we're understanding those customers that are here and looking at the openings of existing locations for a retailer in the marketplace, we're really validating that that's their preferred type of of consumers. So they've gone out, they've been successful, that SOAR has sustained and done very well because of that right type of long-term sustainable customer base that's there, and validate that that same type of consumer is here in Temecula. Hope that answers your question.
Well, I was wondering if maybe there's a counterpart to Buxton and that's their focus. And if you had any website or resource to suggest in that regard as far as, I mean, if the average lifetime value of a Home Depot customer is around $100,000, what's the average lifetime value of a store customer?
So that is type of information that we do source. Unfortunately, because of some of the information that we get, so when we work with somebody like a Home Depot, all that consumer data is proprietary to them. So that's something that we're not in a position to be able to share out as far as lifetime customer value.
Are you able to share the status of communication with these best potential companies that you outlined here? For instance, you've got Aldo, Kenneth Cole, Spaghetti Factory, Lamps Plus. Have we contacted any of these? And if so, what can you reveal about the communications?
So the city has contacted each of the target retailers, and there's ongoing communication with several of them. We're really working to grow the relationship with each of the target retailers to be successful in Temecula. But Christine may have a little bit more to add to that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you one good thing is I'm able to talk to an actual person at Cheesecake Factory. To me, that is a huge milestone. No, but like Cheyenne said, we're working closely with Buxton and all the top 10 retailers that you saw on that list. We have engaged with every single one, and we're working through it. Retail doesn't happen overnight, so it's about finding the right location for them here in the city. So we are currently engaging with all of them. It's exciting.
This is a question directly related to more commercial business services, banking, CPAs, legal work, investments. Have you done anything like that at all to draw in the actual community services needs of the residents of Temecula?
So there's a couple of different sources where we'd be able to source some information about what is the available workforce for something like that, and use consumer data to say there's an opportunity for an insurance company to come in, or from a healthcare standpoint, we do work in that vertical. But from a strictly attraction standpoint, I don't know if that necessarily would be where our expertise lies. So I do think we'd be able to source some useful information for what you may be talking about, but that's not necessarily where our true expertise falls.
Yes.
Matt with Dean Associates in Commercial Real Estate here. I was just wondering, Buxton, Temecula in itself, thank you. I think a lot of people are attracted to this area for housing purposes, affordable housing compared to the San Diego markets or Orange County markets. And right now we're seeing housing developers come in purchasing land, and obviously there's new projects coming over here with a tremendous amount of housing units coming available. So is Buxton looking into future demographics rather than demographics that are on hand right now?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So we are looking at, when we look at the demographic portion, we're looking at census, current year, as well as projections in future years, to knowing that you're a rapidly growing market. There's housing develops jumping up left and right, and new growth that's occurring. So that is definitely factored into understanding the demographics that are here.
And kind of to build on that, we're able to do something with what's called new mover profiles. So actually showing you, are the people that are moving to your community now, are they different than your current residents? Right? So helping provide insight into how that makeup is changing and looking to project the future of your resident population.
Is that it? Going once? Going twice?
Have you
That's not something that we have currently done, but if that is of high interest to our contacts with the city, we'd be more than happy to discuss that analysis and the process of determining that.
So how do we leverage this engagement that the city's had with you? How do we find out more about our particular areas of interest? Do we talk to the Economic Development Department? Do we talk to you, or where do we go from here?
You can talk to me, Christine, City of Temecula Development, or my colleagues Cheryl Kitzrow and Charles Walker in the back. Basically, we'll act as a funnel. So come ask us your questions. We'll pass it on and get the information from Buxton.
Is there a cost associated with that?
No, no cost. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you for attending, and thank you, Buxton, for presenting. And just to follow up, if you have any other requests, I know we've already assisted numerous brokers on getting them proper information, demographic information. Be glad to assist you. And with that, we will conclude, and thank you for attending.